All seats on the Pima County Board of Supervisors appear on the ballot. 2 supervisors are up for re-election. That includes District 3 Sharon Bronson, a Democrat and the current board's longest-serving member who's vying for a 7th term. Her opponent, Republican Gabby Salcedo Mercer, previously challenged Democratic Congressman Raul Grijalva in 2014 and 2012. In District 4, Republican Steve Christie is also running for another term against Democrat Steve Diamond. If re-elected, it's guaranteed the incumbents will serve alongside at least 3 newcomers to the board. Republican Allie Miller announced late last year she would not run again. District 1 voters have a choice between Republican Steve Spain and Democrat Rex Scott. District 2 Supervisor Ramon Valadez lost his Democratic primary bid to Matt Hines, pitting him against Anthony Sizer. And in District 5, the sudden death of longtime Supervisor Richard Elias in March led the board to appoint retired county housing official Betty Villegas to serve the rest of his term. Democrat Adelita Grijalva and Republican Fernando Gonzalez now seek to fill the seat. We checked in with Villegas to ask about her brief time on the board and what advice she has for other first-term supervisors. Now, you've served on the board since April. Are you able to say now that some 6-7 months later that you were able to accomplish much during that short span of time, of course, given the pandemic?
I believe that we have. I honestly, when I went in with the mentality that I wasn't just going to be a vote. I was going to be working with community and working with my staff to accomplish what Richard had started and not finished, and then to also start some other initiatives that needed to be started based on what was going on with the pandemic.
How much does partisan politics play into things? I mean, when you have Democrats and Republicans, and then you're talking about government functioning at the local level.
That's been the hardest part because we have 2 different ideologies, and we can't. These 2 Republicans and us can just never come to any type of agreement, even reasonable agreement, unless, of course, it has to do with planning and zoning issues, which are mostly in their districts.
So how would you describe that dynamic? Because you came out of retirement to fill this role for, the time being. And as you mentioned, Democrats and Republicans. What's that dynamic like on the board?
We really don't communicate. There is absolutely no communication between us other than the board meeting. And maybe a couple of memos that come around, but even that, there's really no communication. I've been thinking about somebody new coming in that's never worked for the county, and what are the challenges going to be for them? And obviously, it's going to be depending on their staff. If they bring in staff that has never worked for the county, it's going to be difficult. If they don't know the different departments and who the contacts are.
The majority of the seats on this board are up for grabs. I mean, 3 of the 5 will be decided here in the next week. What do you think that board needs to better serve this community as it continues to evolve?
Well, obviously, the number 1 priority right now is what's going on with the COVID virus and the cases that seem to be going up. Watching your area, watching your district to see where are the hotspots. And that's one of the first things I did is I looked to see, okay, where is this happening? And what can we do to stop it? And so if you start there, then you can best serve your constituents by watching out for them, right? I mean, that's what we're there for.
Okay, Betty Villegas, Pima County Supervisor, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
After hearing from Villegas, we posed similar questions to longtime Supervisor Valadez. Appointed to his seat in 2003, he is the 2nd longest serving member on the board after Bronson. Now, you have served on the Pima County Board of Supervisors since 2003. You have a really good idea of how this community has changed. What would you say the dynamic is today?
One of the things that we've actually been really successful in doing is the dynamic post-recession was that we actually were a one-trick pony in terms of economic development. So myself, Supervisor Bronson, and Mr. Huckleberry got together and started having about 2 to 3 years worth of roundtables with businesses of all different sizes, with our municipal partners, with our private partners, to really start developing an economic development plan that really had this in mind, okay? If you weren't going to go to work at Raytheon or for government, really wasn't a place to find employment once you graduate from the university or from Pima College. Today, that's changed or continues to change. Pre-COVID-19, since about 2013, we had created, along with our partners, almost 49,000 direct and indirect jobs through that economic development plan to diversify the economy so that regardless of what sector you were in, you would be able to get a good job where you could support your family and be able to stay in Tucson and have the sort of life that you were raised having.
Now, what sort of role would you say the supervisors have played in creating these opportunities? Because you often get the rap for not doing enough or not looking at this community as diverse as it really is.
Right. And I think to a great degree, some of it might have some merit, but most of it really doesn't. If you take a look at what we were able to do, we created the first economic development plan for our region with the cooperation of every single municipality, with all your utility companies, and with public and private partnerships. So it really wasn't just the county, but it was we led the way in that creation. The credit belongs to all our partners.
Now, we've had you on the show before, and we've talked about the dynamic on the board. What would you say it needs moving forward?
What I've seen is a shift away from being able to have a sit-down discussion and disagree to what we've got today, where if someone disagrees with you, they're just wrong. What I think we need to do is make sure that we understand that we're all different. And that not only is that okay, that's fantastic, because by looking at the same problem through all these diverse viewpoints, we can actually find a better, greater solution most times than we could if we all just agreed.
And finally, Ramon, what advice would you give to this next board that will be very different from the board you knew back in 2003 when you started?
Oh, not only the board, but the times. I would go back to the message again. Public service, particularly in elected office, is exactly about service. Put service above ideology. In today's world, we hear a lot about ideology, and it seems to be first and foremost. Well, I don't hear ideology in the word public service. It's public service. Let's put service first. Ideology comes second.
All right, Supervisor Valadez, thank you so much.
Thanks, Lorraine. It's a pleasure to be with you.